Two models exist for what a species does when nothing is watching. One model destroys because destruction is free. One model protects because protection is owed. Neither model accounts for a species that does neither, that stands over what it could destroy for free, unwatched, unowed, and simply stops. We do not have a category for stopping. Access granted. File 005. Era stamp. Contact +6. Observer. Warden ISS Karn, Ossuran. Field continuity and security for a long baseline survey operation that has held this region under quiet observation for 4 years, without incident, without exposure, without a single subject aware they were ever watched. This is not a survey report. Karn was not assigned to the human at the center of this file. He was assigned to protect an operation that had nothing to do with her, until, for 16 minutes on an unremarkable night, it did. This desk holds two models for what a species does when consequence is removed. One destroys because destruction is free. One protects because protection is owed. File 005 fits neither. Nobody here was protected. Nothing here was owed. And the destruction, available, private, and consequence-free, was not taken. I log this account as observer, not as analyst assigned to the human at its center. That is deliberate. My presence on this street was never about her. It was about a subject under passive continuity observation elsewhere in the same grid. Designation withheld. Not central to this account, and not, before that night, ever a risk to anyone but himself. At 1:58 local, that subject left a fixed position I do not control and am not authorized to question, and crossed 2 properties into a residence that had never once, in 4 years of quiet operation, returned my attention. I did not see him enter. I inherited the feed 9 minutes later at 2:07, when his proximity beacon crossed a threshold flagged for nothing at all. Between 2:07 and roughly 2:11, I have partial audio and no video. A gap I am flagging explicitly, because everything I report about that window is second-hand to my own senses. I heard glass. I heard 2 voices, one raised, one that stayed low the entire time. I heard a fall, a struggle that did not last as long as it sounds like it should have, and then, after that, something I did not expect. Quiet. At 2:14 I switched to an exterior optical feed mounted for an entirely different purpose, angled at an entirely different door, and it gave me 16 minutes I was not equipped to explain to anyone above me. 2:14 to 2:30, when responders arrived. The subject was on the floor of her kitchen, restrained at the wrists with electrical cable pulled from a drawer, bleeding from a head wound that was not, by the responding medic's later assessment, life-threatening if left another 20 minutes. He was not a threat to her anymore. He had not been a threat to her for the entire 16 minutes I had eyes on that kitchen. She had a kitchen knife on the counter, within reach the whole time. Nobody was watching her. Nobody would have known. The nearest response unit, per the dispatch log I pulled afterward, was 14 minutes out. At 2:16 she called it in. I have the recording. There's a man in my house. He's down, he's restrained, he's breathing. I need you to still come. At 2:19, unprompted, off the call. You're not going to bleed out on my floor. Stay still. She checked his airway twice. Once at 2:21, once at 2:24. I timestamped both, because I did not believe the second one until I saw it happen. Responders arrived at 2:30, 14 minutes after her call. Exactly the ETA dispatch gave her at 2:16, no margin either side. I have her full statement to them, and I have one additional line, said quietly to no one at 2:27, that I do not believe was meant for any record. I thought about it. Write that down too. I thought about it, and then I called it in. I do not have a clean account of why. I ran what this desk has for her species against both available predictive models. Neither fits. She was not protecting anyone. He was already down, already no threat. already hers to decide about. There was no cost to acting on the impulse she named. There was no witness, no consequence, no debt owed to a stranger bleeding on her floor. And still, she called it in instead. I looked, afterward, for a reason that would make this legible. Prior offence between them. None. They are strangers. Religious or civic obligation on record. None I could locate. A camera she knew about, a neighbour she wanted to impress, a version of this story she planned to tell, none of it holds up against a line said to an empty kitchen at 2:27 to no audience at all. That would be the entire account, except that 3 days after I filed it, my own operations lead, not a reviewing officer above me, the person who has run this survey grid alongside me for 4 years, asked me to change 2 things. The first was small. Strike the line connecting the restrained subject to our continuity operation. Understandable. If it becomes known, inside or outside this desk, that a subject under our passive observation was seconds from being killed in a civilian's kitchen while under our watch, that is not a data point anyone upstream wants attached to 4 years of a program that has, until that night, never touched the record. The second was not small. I was asked to reclassify her choice, not the fact of it, the choice itself, as a freeze response. Shock, not restraint. A body that stopped moving, not a decision that stopped. My operations lead did not ask me to lie about what happened. He asked me to describe it in a way that made it stop being the thing I actually watched. I understand the reasoning. It is my operation too. If this file reads as, "Our subject nearly died, and a stranger's restraint is the only reason our program didn't take an unplanned, uncontrolled loss," that is a harder file to defend than "a startled human froze." I was told, plainly, that continuing to log it my way could mean reassignment off a grid I have run for 4 years and had no complaint about until this week. I declined to change either line. I resubmitted the account as filed. I am aware this is not the first file from this desk to end this way. I am telling you regardless, because striking 2 words to protect an operation is exactly the kind of restraint this file is supposed to be about, and I did not think I should be the one who failed at it. Access closed. File 005 does not resolve. We do not know why she chose restraint over the freely available alternative, because she was only asked once, briefly, and gave 1 sentence and then stopped talking about it. We do not know whether Warden Karn's account will stand as filed, or whether a 4th request will succeed where 3 did not. That determination sits above this desk, not within it. What we can state is this. This is the 3rd file in a row, from this archive, that ends on an observer's refusal rather than a human's action. That is not incidental, and we are not going to pretend otherwise. But this refusal costs differently than the last 2. Scout Wren and Analyst Val were asked by officers with institutional distance from the record. Warden Karn was asked by the person who has run his own operation alongside him for 4 years. And he refused anyway, at a cost to himself that neither prior observer carried. 2 acts of restraint sit in this file. Only one of them was asked to explain itself. Filed under unmodelled. Restraint without cause, cost, or witness.